Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today in War Thunder I thought I'd talk about the April Fool's event that we had, the Alien Combats in War Thunder event from Green Hills, and basically my opinions on it, what I thought about it, and all of this stuff. So the first thing I want to go into is the build-up. We had the ARG, we had a lot of hints, we had a lot of fun, and for me, I thought personally that was the best build-up we've ever had when it comes to an April Fool's event in War Thunder. Creating this little ARG, creating, little ideas around stuff is always a great thing to do because it makes the mind wander and it makes a lot of community members' imagination go crazy, and that's what you want to try and get hyped up about something. Now, I think it could have been done a little bit differently, but overall, the whole thing was pretty flawless, and obviously, one of the problems with creating such great hype around a product or advertisement around a product is I don't think it will ever live up to expectations. So when a lot of people saw this after going through the ARG and working out all of these secret things, I think a lot of people were disappointed with the end product, and I can understand why, because the build-up was so good. But the question is that the fault of, Gaijin's marketing team for doing such a good job at hyping the thing up, or is it, the problem with too much expectations for a singular event? Now, for me personally, I think overall the event was okay. I didn't think it was a 5-day event though, and that is the difference. If this had happened over a Saturday, Sunday, or a weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, generally, these events only go for a few days, then I think it would have been fine. But the problem was, it extended too long, and I checked yesterday, I thought, let's try and get in some matches. There was 0 people queuing, showing that people had had their fill for a few days, and then it was gone. You couldn't get any silver lions out of it, you couldn't have got any RP out of it, so I feel like a lot of people were like, oh, we'll play this for a little bit of fun, and then we'll put it down. So that seems to be the general thing that happened when it came to, the event. So the longevity of it was not great. I played about maybe 20 games of it, and I thought the general mechanics, they were pretty cool, different variants of them. The map was interesting, there was a lot to explore on it, and I think what I'm going to do, if available, is maybe just go around the city part of it, have a look. But the main thing is I don't think there was enough there. There was enough depth in the whole event for what would be a 5-day one. So that was the main issue. Now let's talk about the ships themselves. We'll talk about the 3 firing methods and all of that stuff. So the alien ships themselves controlled very sporadically, which is good. That's what they should feel like. You could flip them around, you could dip them, you could dive them, you could throw them about the place, and I think this is generally a good thing. You want people to be able just to fling stuff around and try new things, and the general way that a lot of people see UFOs or alien ships is that they kind of break, the normal laws of physics, especially in movies. So why not do that in War Thunder? And I thought that was generally done pretty well, even though it was a little bit weird at times trying to control the things. I think overall the movement was very good. The seamless way that the ships were able to go from in the air to near the ground and then under the water was incredible, because as a person who has had to deal with the War Thunder camera when it comes to underwater, you can even go into the replay system now. You can't go underwater in the replay system if you are using free cam or chase cam or anything like that. You can only do it if you're looking at somebody under the water. So, the camera system, at least from the replay point of view, isn't really set up for it, but the seemingness, I think would be the word, from air to water was amazing in these machines. It worked absolutely great, and it showed that if you take a vehicle from the air or from the ground and putting into the water, it is possible to do this, meaning that it could open up possibilities in the future. The 3 distinct modes, so you had the normal air combat one where you could fly around very fast, you had limited shielding and you took a lot of damage if you were hit, and you got yourselves a rail gun. And was it a rail gun or was it a laser? I think you could probably call it a laser. And basically this was there just to shoot at enemies with your laser, trying to do a decent bit of damage. And then you had the second mode, which was like a hover mode. And in this hover mode you seem to get increased shielding and what would be a more railgun or shotgun type of thing. And then when you went under the water, you know, you had the same capabilities as you had above the water if you weren't in hover mode, but you also had the railgun from the hover mode and some guided torpedoes. So, you know, fire and forget principle torpedoes, which is kind of hilarious. So you can see that there were three different modes for the alien ship. They all gave you different weaponry that you can use. They all gave you different speeds, gave you different bonuses, so different advantages and disadvantages. So depth-wise, you know, that was pretty good. So the weaponry side of things is grand. It's just everything else, when you're talking about a 5-day event, there's just not enough going on. But the other thing is something that is brought up a lot is Anton made a post on the Reddit about a year, maybe 2 years ago, basically saying that, you know, these events are for fun and they don't really do any testing from it, and he basically talked about the numbers of people who play them and therefore it's not enough of a big enough sample size, and I can understand that. So when he says they're not used for testing, I think this the better way to put it is these events are not used for testing, but they are used to see community reaction about specific things. So if you look at the modern vehicles, maybe it wasn't a test for mechanics such as smoke grenades and, you know, APFS DS and the armor modules that they had, but was it a test to see the community's reaction around modern vehicles, and if they wanted to see stuff like helicopters, and if they wanted to see stuff like modern stuff? The ship one we had, you know, is this, do people want these styles of ships, like older ships, or do they want more modern ships? Then we have this alien spacecraft thing, and, you know, it could be community perception around how these things feel, or maybe post-modern machines, or at the end of the day it could be about the homing torpedoes or the different styles of weaponry. All of these things may not be used for testing, but they are definitely used to see community reaction, and if they're not used for either of those things, then I think Gaijin is dropping the ball, because it's a perfect opportunity to try and get some feedback about, do you like this, do you not like this, so on and so forth. What is your feeling about this? What don't you like? What do you like? So on. So when it comes to this event, it was very obvious to me that they were looking at different styles of weaponry. The fact is, in War Thunder, we don't really have any machines that, depending on what mode you're in, you change weapons, right? And we also don't have any machines which can go from the air into the water, or from the ground into the water, and actually under the water. You know, we do have stuff such as the PT-76, which is amphibious, but we don't have, let's say, a submarine tank or anything like that. So it could just be testing those types of ideas, or showing to the community that yes, you know, we can do these things. Is there any ideas that we can, you know, like, build from them? And I think there is. You know, I mean, I thought about stuff like hovercraft. That could be an option. A lot of people brought up VTOL as an idea. You know, the Harriers, and how they are able to control themselves at specific altitudes, or just take off vertical as they do. So there is that as well. I mean, even people thought, well, why not force fields? You know, if we do go the postmodern era, which, you know, eventually War Thunder's gonna run out of vehicles which are true or real, and then run out of vehicles which are ahistorical, why not go postmodern, I think is a lot of people's thoughts. So, you know, it could even be a test for, you know, future shielding, or even like a specific idea around that. And also, one of the big things for me, with the release of, well, not the release, but the squadron vehicles that we're getting, the one which is very similar to the Project 159, the Soviet ship, what we find from it is it did have access to use homing torpedoes, and with the Japanese around the corner, the Japanese are very well known for late war homing torpedoes, whether it's to do with magnets or whether it's to do with other things which are more modern day. So for me, I think it is very clear that there is going to be some form of torpedo which is going to have a homing signature on it. On top of this as well, you were able to destroy said torpedoes in the water. This could be a test for either just being able to kill torpedoes under the water, or being able to stop stuff like missiles. One of the things that we know are in the game files, and have been for a long time now, are anti-ship missiles. It seems to be one of the things which is being held off on right now, and I think that's just because either they don't know how to stop them. There isn't really a counter to them in game right now, but if they can create a system very similar to the modern day railguns that you see from the Americans, which is designed specifically to stop these missiles, then I think you could add the missiles in the game. So it could be a test for that. There's a bunch of different things here which it could be tests for, or it could be a way to see community reaction, which is completely fine. And as long as the mainstay of the event is fun. And for the 20 games I had, it was pretty fun. It was different. It was a nice experience. The only thing I would say, though, which was brought up by a lot of people I've talked to, and also a thought that I'd had, it would have been nice to get something out of it. Right, we do Halloween events which have decals or which have certain titles, and the reason you do these events is because, well, first of all, you can do them alongside your normal grinding, so it doesn't really affect you that much, and on top of it, you get something out of it. You get a title, you get, a decal. What would have been nice is, what about a title of the random alien language? And it was, you had to play 10 games, and if you played those 10 games, you got a title, or maybe win 5 missions, or something like that. If you want to get either community reactions or testing data, this is the way to do it. You have to give prizes down the line. And I feel like a lot of people were disappointed that that wasn't the fact. And I kind of was too, in a way. But then I think about past April Fools, and I can't really think of many of them which had titles or decals attached to them. But because this was so left field, it was so out there, I think it would have been a great opportunity to be able to do it. And also the model of the ship itself, absolutely pucker. Really lovely model, and on top of it, the map itself was beautiful. There is no denying that there was a lot of work that went into that map, and I think we're going to get a similar scenario to the Middle East map, which was the map which was used for the modern vehicles in 2015, I would like to say. I might be wrong about that, though. It may have been a little bit later, and basically, that Middle East map eventually came to the game. I would be so surprised if this Green Hills map does not come to the game, because it has pretty much everything. It has a nice sea area for naval combat. It has good air areas for people to fight around. It also has a lovely ground area, and one of the things that we can see with the Alaska map, and also some other maps put into the game, one of the things that they're trying to do is be able to protect the ground forces from the air forces, especially now we're getting more modern and getting more modern technology, and this could be referenced with the laser stuff as well. So with the map, with the idea of skyscrapers and large buildings, it's a lot harder to kill ground units if you are from the air, even from a helicopter standpoint, because you have so many more areas where you can hide as a ground vehicle. So I think from that point of view, it would be lovely to see this map in rotation. I think it might be slightly big if you wanted to make it a lower tier map, but as a higher tier map, I think it would be okay. Another thing as well is the lasers. So the only thing I can think of from the laser point of view that could be tested or thought of is the idea of laser guided munitions. So we have mouse controlled and keyboard controlled munitions in the game. What this means is once you fire the missile, or once you fire the ATGM or AAM, you can guide it in to the target either with your keyboard or mouse. We also have target lock-on, or radar lock-on if you want to see it like that. This is seen from aircraft and also seen from stuff like the Tunguska, which you still have to heavily use your mouse, but you know, it's still there. You can lock on and then fire. Now, when it comes to laser-guided stuff, my feeling is it would work very similarly to how we see from the UFOs. So with the UFOs, what you have is just a laser which comes out of them, and you keep it on the target, and then once you keep it on the target for a specific amount of time, that target dies. Well, what if you made it so it was a laser? If you keep that laser on the target as much as possible, then you could launch a missile after, let's say, 5 seconds after it has locked the target. That to me is the only reason or only way, you know, the mechanic would be and work when it comes to War Thunder. But just understand that, you know, obviously this is all just thinking and observations. It's not really planted in proper job evidence. But overall, my feelings is that it was a fun event. Just a little bit too long, and if it was going to be this long, you needed some form of payout for people in it, and I think that would have been fine in just a title, you know, with the alien language. I think that could have worked well for a lot of people. I love the build-up, though the build-up was great. Hopefully in the future we get more stuff like this, and the only problem now is they're nailing the build-up stuff, right? So the build-up for the April Fools was great. The build-up for this battle engineer stuff, everybody's interested, everybody's talking about it. I'm worried that the payoffs will not be where Gaijin want them to be. Or whatever the payoff is, it will never be seen as good enough because of the hype. So that is always something you got to worry about, always something you got to think about, but overall, I think it's done pretty well. I'll see you next time, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. I'd like to thank B. Young, Blackie, Dyslexic Child, Moxie, Olo Brolo, Martinez, and Super Cacti for supporting me on Patreon.